What's been the best of it? The best of it? You said there'd be no trick questions. I think maybe the best of it is that our time at first when the whole thing was thought up was picture this. Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin's amazing singer with the golden voice, finally tells us about the 7 women whose voices burned into his mind and touched his heart. These aren't just casual mentions. They're like explosion sand warm fires. Each one a powerful force that helped shape his own story. The first person to really affect Plant was Janis Joplin, a raw force of heartbreaking songs and blazing soul that broke his romantic dreams into burning pieces. He remembers that electric night in San Francisco, like he was hit by lightning from space. Janis came out of the smoky air like a shooting star made of sadness. Hero's scream peeled away the layers off his own protected story. Each note shelled out was an honest confession, rough enough to cut glass, gentle and auto hold 1,000 tears that were never cried. In her singing, Plant heard both the loud sound off fighting back and the quiet sound off bung hurt. 2 sides that tore open his false ideas and showed the center off his dreams. Her show wasn't just music. It was like a holy ceremony, a burning proof of staying alive in a world that wanted to silence women's pain. When he joined her crying sound with shaking guitar strings, he felt the electric hurt of her scars mixing with his own, a shared heartbeat of wanting and freedom. Long after the last sun-gendered Plant carried Janis's echo in his blood. An unforgettable hurt that makes him chase what's real over what's comfortable, passion over perfection. Every time he dares to let his voice bleed truth into the night. Next. King Tina Turner, the phoenix bird that rose from ashes. Her voice was a storm of church fire that broke every doubt Plant ever had. He still feels the shaking in his chest from that night of white light. Tina's roar started as a whisper of fight coals in the evening, then exploded into a huge fire of fighting back, lightning shooting through Zeppelin's accord shadows, where he thought has stood unshakable, her strength hammered at his bones. Each note was a statement that scars are not weaknesses, but jeweled prizes of survival. On stage, she moved like a goddess, dressed in victory. Her arms raised like she was calling for salvation from the hot coals of her past. Plant watched amazed as her church-influenced war cry changed pain into power, teaching him that the most holy song is Medine, the hot pot of suffering. In her look, he saw the reflection of his own hidden shaking. Sadness hidden in swagger, and felt a new respect for being hurt's raw magic. Their rare duet was pure magic. Hercule and response how twisted together, with this melodic sadness creating a blanket off fire and shadow brighter than any solo could make. When Tina's final note went up into thester-filled sky, Plant found himself flanced on the edge of wonder and humility. She had danced on the ruins of her own past, making from heartbreak a crown of flame. And in that bright aftermath, he discovered the true power of change and the holy beauty in rising once more from the ashes. If your daughter's boyfriend, for that matter, behave with you, I mean, how doth he relate to you? Well, you see, she's special, in fact, because this is being seen in France. Then came Stevie Nicks. Night Witch, whose voice was both lullaby and battle cry, wrapping velvet shadows around Plant's heart. Heifers met her like a ghost at the edge of a moonlit dream, a silver Ashido gliding through the backstage darkness, her presence charged with ancient magic. When she spoke, her words dripped with half-hidden truths. Each phrase was 2 things at once, beauty and danger that shook his every certainty. On stage, Stevie became both hunter and hunted. Her quiet verses could trap 1,000 souls in a single breath, then explode into fierce, loud parts that broke the quiet like thunder. Plant watched, glued to his seat, as she turned his stillness into suspense, teaching him thought the space between notes is where wanting and fear crash together. Kea, her melodious wear rose thorns and rose petals, soft touch, yet able to draw blood, reminding him that attraction lies in opposites. In their rare times working together, he found himself dancing on the sharp edge of her contradictions. One moment petted by her heavenly harmonies, then next driven to raw confession by her stilly look. She challenged him to embrace the shadows within his own voice, and to find grace in wild longing. When she left, the air stayed pregnant with her echo, a haunting invitation to explore the darkened, bright two-sidedness she embodied. Following the storm, Patti Smith came out like a beacon of fierce clearness. Her presence both a balm and a blade cutting through Plant's lingering shadows. Her remembers that fateful London alley as a hot pot. Patti's voice rang out not as melody, but as a statement. Each word as spark that lit the dry wood of his satisfaction. In her eyes he saw the raw cast of survival. Heartbreak hammered into unbreakable belief, and he felt his own romantic illusions crack and break apart. She challenged him with puzzle. Her poetry was gentle, yet unforgiving, a whisper that carried the force of a strong wind. Where he had looked for perfection, she demanded imperfection laid bare. Where he held on to comfort, she revealed the power in pain. Her flame-made resolve burned into his bones, teaching him that true rock doesn't hide pain. It announces it, burning sorrow into a victory of honesty. And so when Patti's shadow melted into the fog, Plant stood forever changed. His own story burned away, replaced by a lingering hot coal of fearless truth. In her aftermath, he discovered not just a muse, but a mirror reflecting the fierce, unpolished heart of rock itself. Then the street-smart rebel Joan Jett burst into Plant's world like a sound tornado. Leather-covered and unapologetic, her snarling guitar riffs tearing through his blues-soaked mind. He felt her howl as a challenge thrown at his feet, daring him to drop the velvet curtain of his own story and dance in the thunder of basic truth. Each chord she hit was a declaration of war, on satisfaction, lighting fireworks in his blood and ripping the calm from his veins. In a flicker of stage lights, Plant watched her control her guitar, as though it were a living animal, her voice going back and forth between razor-sharp, fighting back and wounded longing. When her anthem of grit and glory cracked the silence, as sensed the echo of his own buried longing and hurt for freedom he'd long disguised behind Zeppelin's glory. Their shared moments in the studio crackled like live wires. Her jagged power chords crashed with his melodic licks, making a new magic of fire and shadow that burned away his hesitation. When Joan walked away, the air felt fallow and alive with her absence, a storm's echo lingering in Blanchard. He realized that in her fierce reflection, he discovered his unsilenced roar, a fierce taking back off self that still echoes in every stage-bound steps. Before the world knew her name, Annie Lennox appeared in Plant's world like a moonlit ghost, her boy-girl elegance, a puzzling dance-off strength, and being hurt. He remembers their secret studio session under flickering candlelight where the air was thick with unspoken longing. Creaquiescent clear voice poured over him like melted glass. Each note a sharp piece of heartache that gleamed with fierce bodie. In that hushed sanctuary, she whispered confessions of loss and hope, her words slicing through his defenses with surgical precision. Plant felt his pulse sink to her rhythm, his guarded wills melting in the glow of her furless being hurt. She coaxed him to unveil the scars he'd kept hidden, teaching him that honesty could wound as deeply as it could heal. When she sang the final refrain, the studio fell silent, and he stood shaking, struck by the raw power of her art. In Annie's presence, Plant discovered that true closeness in music is made in the hot pot of shared fragility. And echoed the echo of her whispered panin every chord he played. Finally, PJ Harvey, the storm-made poet, whose voice was raw thunder and whisper-ed wind, came down upon Plant's world like a judgment day. He first heard her in a packed London dive, her throaty chant cutting through the crowd's haze and burning his blood with its basis intensity. In that moment, time shook. Her voice was a living crack, tearing open the surface of his own measured melodies. Their eyes met across the smoke-filled air, a silent agreement of shared fierceness. On stage, PJ's presence was elemental anger, every syllable dripping with fighting back and pain. Plant's bass lines, once anchors of Fifth's own legend, felt like weak whispers against her rebel roar. In the studio, their working together was volcanic. Her raw verses sparked his imagination into huge fires, and Richards attempted to calm her flames. Yet, it was impossible to tame her fire. Instead, he learned to give in to it. Working beside PJ Harvey felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, terrifying, exciting, infiniteliative. She challenged him to strip a wavery comfort, to expose the ragged scars beneath his golden god mask. In her fearless changing of tears, into roar, grief into rebellion. Plant's soft blueprint of his own possible rebirth. And when her final howl faded onto silence, he stood hollowed and renewed, carrying her volcanic echo within every tremor of his song. Why these seven, and why unveil them now? Because Robert Plant's journey has been a hot pot of thunder and whisper. A pilgrimage through the raw elements of sound and soul. And these women were the basic forces that lit his magic. Each meeting was a storm and a safe place. Janis's heartrending howl yanked him into the deep hole of truth. Tina's phoenix flame strength taught them to turn scars into little crowns. Stevie's moonlight mystery revealed sacred power of silence. Patti's revel poetry demanded he burn his satisfaction to ashes. Joan's basic riff-stripped, fighting back mirrored his own hunger for purity. Annie's crystal-clear being hurt cut through his armor like liquid glass. And PJ's volcanic rebirth whispered that true art must die and come back to life in each performance. Together they formed a group of stars of opposites, light and shadow, breaking and making up, mapping the outline of his own contradictions. In there, Rorsch heard his unspoken pain. In their whispers, he discovered hidden strength. They were his teachers. His Schellingers, his muses, the impossible lovers who refused to be tamed. And when their voices flowed through his veins, he realized that music was not merely a performance, but a lifeline, a call to face fear, to embrace being hurt, and to rise above loneliness. So today, Robert Plant stands not on top of a stage, but on the doorway of thankfulness. Humbled by the sirens who taught him thought rock's truest power lies not in spectacle, but in survival through bodhi and fighting back. Their echoes will forever echo in his chords, a proof to the magic of the feminine, a force that shaped a legend and taught them that to sing is to endure.